Okay, underwater searching tips. Just a brief background on me. I think Tom covered it well. I've been doing drone recovery for just under 40 years. Started out doing the drag bar method where you have a chunk of metal bar with chains hanging off of it with drag hooks that you drag across the bottom to hook a body. Since then, I then went to side scan sonar back in the mid to early 90s. And then in early 2003, 2004, I graduated to ROVs. I now use side scan sonar and ROVs together. So I'm a diver, but I have not, I've been in the water for well over 20 years for this type of work because I use side scan sonar and ROVs for it now and actually do full recoveries using the ROV. So let's jump into this. Before deploying any search equipment, you need good information. Conduct interviews to determine your point of last seen. It's absolutely critical that you spend time getting that information. If you don't, this technology is wonderful. If you know where you're looking is a good location, but in the end, this is just equipment. If we aren't using this equipment in the right spot, you're still not going to find anything. It would be very much like you knowing that you've lost your glasses in the house, but looking outside because the light's better. It wouldn't make much sense, would it? So we want to make sure that we're searching the right area, and in doing that, I can assure you, you're going to have very good results. Have a boat on the water that you can guide from shore via radio to get them in eyesight, eyewitness location, and marked with the GPS. So we'll routinely interview people along the shoreline of a lake, canvass the area, find out if anyone witnessed it. Those that did, we will then have them go back to the actual location that they witnessed it from. Most times you'll get on scene, you'll ask the witness, so what did you see? They'll immediately want to take you down to the end of the dock and show you what the location. Well, their vantage point could be vastly different from the dock than it was from where they actually witnessed it. If they were back, say, on their porch and looked through a series of trees when they witnessed it, they might be able to use those trees almost like you would a gun sight to get you in an exact location. So get with those witnesses, ask them to bring you back that location, have them pinpoint where it's at, and you can talk to a boat via radio and get them in that location and mark it with a GPS. And then if you do that going around the lake with everyone that has good information, you can get a really, really good location on where the accident happened or where the person went subsurface. Don't fall into the trap of guessing where the victim may be located. If they were seen in a given location, that is your point last seen. So start there. It's real easy for people to say, well, geez, with the currents in this lake, don't get into that. Go to that point last seen and start your search there. There's a lot of people I've seen, and most of the cases that I get called in on now are cases that other people were not successful on, and that's why I'm being called in. So in the last 18 years, I think I've done just over 130 drowning victim recoveries. Very few of those are what I call cherry pickers, very easy ones that the information was really good, and I went out and did the recovery, and I was the first person to look. The only cases that I have that happen with now are here in St. Louis County, Minnesota, where I'm a member of the rescue squad here. Aside from that, all the other cases are where other people failed, and it's because they didn't follow these real simple tips, and they tried to overthink. Drownings are actually very simple if you don't try and overthink them, and people do try and overthink them. So don't try and guess what the current might do. Go back to that point last seen and work it from there. And so stay away from that. Go with what is known. So just follow what you know. Here's a case where we were out marking a location based on eyewitness information. Unwitnessed drownings. An unwitnessed drowning can be very difficult because you have no idea where they went subsurface, and you don't know if they remain on the surface for a long period of time. So with that being said, you may have to side scan large areas of water or canines. I use canines a lot, which have been very successful for me. There's things that you need to know about canines. One is you'll have canine handlers call you wanting to share their services with you. What I typically do will ask them for 2 references from law enforcement agencies that they've done successful work for. If they haven't, then it probably ends there. A canine can absolutely misguide your search and put you in areas that aren't relative. So be careful in using them. If you've got a good canine team, I worked with some unbelievable canine teams over the last 40 years, and I've had really good luck with them. But again, make sure that the team you have is trusted. Looking at the scene from the time the accident happened. If the accident happened at night, what lights were on at that time where the subject may attempt to swim towards seeking help? So what happens at night? Think to yourself given a location, and you're in trouble. What are you looking for? You're looking for lights. What does light mean? Light means that there's probably a person there or a structure there. There's a place for you to get help. So if it happened at night, and this has been very successful for us when we've looked at a scene at the time that it happened, not necessarily at 2 p.m. when we first arrived there, but at the time that the accident happened, and go back to roughly where you believe it happened, and start looking at the shoreline. What was lit up at that time? Where may they have swam towards? If it is during the day, who was on the body of water that may have been have seen something or didn't realize it, and finding witnesses. So that's where it's important to get out there and canvass the shoreline and see who may have seen something and didn't realize it. Outside influences. Don't let outside influences keep you from moving the search forward. If you have done what is reasonable in an area, move on. It is easy to keep searching the same area, hoping for better results because someone is demanding you don't move. And I've run into this. I had a case a couple of years ago where it was basically the town Big Mouth. Was very demanding that we search one area, and that's the only area we search. Well, we had searched it to a point of almost exhaustion, that it was ridiculous that we were putting any more efforts into that area. And he was demanding that we keep searching there because he was an eyewitness and was 100% sure that's where he was. But we also had telephone information from the person that was subsurface. He was clinging to the edge of the ice for a long period of time. And he said where he was, and it was quite a ways from where this gentleman said that we should be searching. As in the end, the person ended up refloating on their own in the next spring, and he was in very close proximity to the location he had given, not the eyewitness information. So sometimes you have to kind of dig your heels in and force that the search should move on. And that should have happened in this case, but it's hard when you're coming in from the outside to take over and demand that the search get moved on. So just keep that in mind, and you try to be diplomatic, but don't be afraid to be insistent as well, where you say, no, we've done what we can do here, we need to move on and move it in the direction it needs to go. Families can be demanding, but if you communicate to them what you are doing and why, they will let you do what is best. You want the same thing, so communicate with them. I've seen this over and over the last 40 years that searchers want to be secretive about what they know, and don't tell the family this, and don't tell the family that. It's going to be upsetting. No, be honest with them. This is their family member. They deserve to know what you're doing and why. And I can tell you this much, if you don't communicate, the local community will share what rumors they're hearing. And you know what? There's always rumors with these. Anytime people don't understand things, they then create the ending for themselves. I've heard many times over the course of the years I've been doing this, oh, this guy's not even in there. I heard he had a girlfriend and he ran off with her. And you know what? I don't know that I have ever had one of those cases be true. I'm not saying they don't happen. I'm just saying it's extremely unlikely, and that just play it with the information that's given to you and follow that information. And I assure you, you will have good results. Interviewing children. Interviewing children can be difficult, especially because of the parent factor. Children like to tell the truth. They want to tell the truth. But parents like to intervene because they don't want to see their child struggle. And that's very understanding. So what I typically do is I'll pull the parent aside and ask them, please don't answer from the child. I want raw answers from the child. And parents are generally pretty good about that. I've only had one or two that were insistent that they be involved in the interview. I don't have a problem with them being there. I have a bigger problem with them interfering. So before interviewing children, ask adults not to answer for the child and let the child answer from their memory and not from the parents' coaching. Often parents want to help children when they are struggling for an answer. And like I say, you'll ask a question and the child will kind of hesitate. Well, the parent will jump in and say what they thought the child had told them. I don't want to know that. I want to know from the child what they remember. Allow the child to fully answer, not assist them from what others have told you. And that's easy to do too. The child will pause and struggle with a word and you'll answer for them. Don't answer for them. Give them a minute, let them answer in their own words and take that information to help the search. Working with canines. Again, I've had really good luck with canines. This is Dave Drzelski from St. Louis County. Dave has probably been one of the most reliable canine teams that I've ever worked with. He currently has 2 dogs that we use frequently, and we've had really good luck with Dave. And he's not the only one. We've had other, Kim Cooper is one from Canada that I've had really good luck with. There's many out there. So I hate to even name any because I don't want to miss anybody because there are a lot of good canine teams out there. Canines are a great resource for getting side scan sonar and ROVs to the right area to search. But at times it is problematic to understand where the scent is coming from in moving water such as rivers and streams. So that's probably one of the biggest problems that you will have with canine teams, is that people don't understand what the canine is telling them. And the dogs don't care. All they want to do is indicate on the scent. So if they're getting the scent, they're going to indicate. So it's for the handler to understand. Canine teams really, when you divide them up by percentage, it's really like 80-20. And the dog is 20% and it's 80% canine handler who has to interpret that dog and give you the information. One way to assist in finding out how the scent is coming up to the surface is to use a jug of milk and lower it to the bottom and open it at the bottom and see where the milk comes to the surface. This is great in shallow water, but what should you do when it is deep water? So this is great. You drop the milk jug down there, you pop the top, and then you sit back and you watch where the milk comes to the surface. That gives you an idea what that scent is doing as it's traveling to the surface and how far off it is. So in a case, I was searching for a young boy in the St. Lawrence River in Canada, and it was in 218 feet of water. And I was struggling to come up with an idea on how to mimic the same attempt with the milk. But of course, the milk in 218 feet of water would dissipate to the point where you wouldn't see it when it hit the surface. And this was a strong, I think about a 4-knot current. So there's no way we would ever see that milk when it hit the surface. So we're trying to figure out ideas on how do we do this. We had a anchor line attached to a buoy that divers were following down to do what we call free dives, where what they do, they drop down the bottom, and they basically just drift and look around and see what they can see on the bottom. And sometimes this can be very successful, but a sonar would be helpful in this. And of course, divers at this point didn't have sonar units. So we're trying to figure out a way, what do we send down with the diver that maybe they can get let go of and have it come to the surface. So what we did is we came up with a plan to use styrofoam cups, and brought them down to 218 feet. And the diver took 10 of them and released them one at a time, 10 seconds apart. And I knew the GPS coordinate of where that buoy was, so I used that. And then when the cups came up, I went over and made a GPS mark on where the cups came up. And it happened to be roughly 141 feet downstream of where that buoy was. So we had good canine indications a little bit further downriver. Very solid. The canine team had been there twice. Gave us really, really good indications. And this was Kim Cooper, who, again, I have a lot of faith in. We then took that 141-foot measurement, brought it down to where the canine teams were indicating, and measured up 141 feet. We added an additional 50 feet to give time for the ROV to get to the bottom in that current. And that's how we located this buoy. So there are tips and tricks that you can use to try and figure out how to figure out what that current is doing and what that scent is doing. And this is just one. And I'm sure people have others. If you have other questions on stuff like this, let me know. I'm happy to help at any time. I'll see. Once you have a good search area, you can deploy side scan sonar, conduct a search of the bottom to locate targets of interest. As you can see on the screen here, that's the Marine Sonic Arc Explorer side scan sonar. I use the newer version of this by Marine Sonic, the Mark II, and I actually use it's a kind of a custom build called the Hunter, which is a larger, heavier system. It's the same transducer, but it's a larger towfish, heavier. One of them weighs, I have two of them actually. I have one that weighs 220 pounds and the other one weighs 110 pounds. And it gets me down to, in real deep water, I can get down to the bottom and get real good images. As you can see, the image there on the right, you can see a drowning victim that we recovered using this system. So that gave us a good image. And then we then went out with the ROV and did the recovery. And this drowning victim was in 100 feet of water. So when a target has been found, you can then deploy an ROV or a diver to make the recovery. This is Paul Morris, a friend of mine who runs an airboat service that we use frequently for thin ice. And this is Paul deploying my ROV, my VideoRay Defender, on a mission last winter in Lake Superior. When a side scan sonar ROV is most effective in public safety operations, any water search, regardless of technology, requires a good point last seen. If you're not getting that good point last seen or getting that area, it's going to be a lot of work. So do your best to conduct those interviews and get that area as small as possible. And it doesn't matter if you're looking for a drowning victim or you're looking for a shipwreck. The better the information, the better your results are going to be. And the shorter length of time it's going to take to find whatever it is you're looking for. Training in realistic conditions produces realistic results. If you bought an ROV and you're spending tons of time in a swimming pool, but you never take it to your local lake, you're probably going to struggle when you get to the local lake for an actual mission. So get out. It's great. I use a pool in all of my classes on day one. And that just so people understand that, geez, when I push the joystick, it does this. They can kind of see what the ROV does. Day two, we're going to open water and get using that sonar and look at targets. That's the only way you're going to get good at this. Is don't make it easy. Make it difficult for yourself and get out into open water. For drowning victim recovery, training must include a factual understanding of drowning physiology. And that's important. I do about an hour-long segment in my classes on drowning physiology, just so people understand what happens. It takes out some of those myths and urban legends of what happens when a person drowns. There's all kinds of stuff where bodies hang on a thermocline, and that's absolute garbage. That does not happen. that, well, geez, maybe he's under a log. Well, there's no way for a body to have gotten under a log. I mean, how would that, what science is that based on? How would that happen? It can't. Document every scene with video or still photos. Even before I deploy the ROV, I'll just quick to a 360. Just kind of gives you a reminder of the weather conditions that day. You don't know. This drowning that you think you're working may be a homicide. You know, I think this past summer I worked 7 drowning recoveries and 1 homicide. It just so happened in that case I knew it was a homicide when I went there. But in a lot of cases, you don't. You go there being told it's an accidental drowning, and it's determined later that it was a homicide. So everything you do, you have to treat every scene like it's a homicide, because if it is, all of your data is going to be brought into court. So if you do the steps right the first time, it'll always be correct if it has to go to court. And maybe later on we can do another segment on just case studies and different unique ways we've used both side scan and ROVs in different cases. I've done. We did a case in Wyoming where we were told that they knew exactly where the victim was, or they believed they did, and as it turned out, he wasn't there. So we ended up searching the whole lake with just an ROV, running straight patterns 50 feet apart, and we ended up recovering the man about 2 city blocks from where they thought he would be. So there's lots of different things you can do. Sometimes it's a lot of work, but I think it's important that you use these tips, and I think you'll get, if you're not using these tips now, I think you'll get better results. Questions?
Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Orlowski, your host. If you have any questions, you could put them in the chat window. Thanks again, Tom. That was really interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Question for Tom is multi-beam, can multi-beam be used for a wide area search?
I have used it for a wide area search. It's not ideal, but yes, you can. The case that I had to do in Wyoming that I mentioned, I set it at like 60 feet out, and then I ran my runs 50 feet apart. And it's a slow process, but absolutely you can do that. Ideally, you want to use side scan sonar, but I have used multi-beam for wide area search successfully.
Another question for you, Tom, is, in your opinion, what is the best frequency when using towed sonar for searches for body recovery?
I really like the 1200 kilohertz. Marine Sonic has a paired 900 1800, and I think it gives you gorgeous images, but the frequency, the range is so short that it makes for a lot longer day searching. You can maxes out at about 45 feet per channel. So what I typically do is the 1200, you can, most people can't really even tell the difference between the 1800 and the 1200. So I use the 600, 1200. And I also like the 600 because there's times where you're looking for maybe a small boat that is also missing from that accident. You can push way out to maybe 400 feet per channel and look for the boat, and then do a better search for the drowning victim. So I almost always use 1200 kilohertz when I'm looking for a drowning victim.